Sometimes it's easy to feel like the news cycle has lost all connection to reality, but every once in a while, there's a big story that cuts through the noise, something that reminds us that the Constitution still means something and the rule of law can prevail. A story like this one. Now, when the Supreme Court issues an 8-1 decision overruling activist judges and backing a president's authority, it should send a message, loud and clear. Before we get into that, please be sure to join Explain America. We really appreciate you helping to get the word out on common sense journalism, and we invite you to like, share, and comment. Now let's get to the story. President Trump just scored a major legal victory at the U.S. Supreme Court. In a decisive 8-1 ruling, the court gave the green light to the administration's plan to roll back temporary legal protections for Venezuelan nationals, protections that were quietly extended by the Biden team just days before Trump returned to office. The program in question is called TPS, not to be confused with TDS. TPS is Temporary Protected Status. It was originally meant to be just that, temporary, for people who couldn't just safely return to their home countries. But under the Biden administration, TPS turned into a backdoor path to permanent residency for hundreds of thousands of Venezuelan migrants. Trump's DHS Secretary Kristi Noem moved quickly to end the most recent expansion of the program. A federal judge in California tried to block it, arguing that no one had ever canceled one of these extensions before. But the Supreme Court just overruled that judge. 8 of the 9 justices agreed. The executive branch has the authority to act here. That's the law. Now, only one justice dissented. Of course, it's Ketanji Brown Jackson, aka the notorious KBJ. And people are asking why. She's become a reliable voice for the far left on the court. And in this case, she stood alone in defending an unprecedented power grab by a lower court judge.
I would think we'd want the system to move as quickly as possible to reach the merits of the issue and maybe have this court decide whether or not the government is entitled to do this under the law. Wouldn't having universal injunctions actually facilitate that? It seems to me that when the government is completely enjoined from doing the thing it wants to do, it moves quickly to appeal that, to get it to the Supreme Court, and that's actually what we would want. What I worry about is similar to what Justice Kagan points out, is that if the government is saying no lower court can completely enjoin it, it actually means that the government just keeps on doing the purportedly unlawful thing, and it delays the ability for this court to reach the underlying issue.
Her dissent has already sparked backlash, especially given the timing right after President Biden's cancer diagnosis, which has recently renewed questions about his mental fitness and legitimacy of decisions made by him late in his presidency. So the one thing we have to wonder about KBJ is that is she acting in good behavior as a judge? Is she following the Constitution and protecting, defending, preserving it the way that is required of public officials? Well, I would say probably not. But of course, the power situation in Washington, D.C. is such that judges on the Supreme Court right now feel emboldened to act with almost complete disregard to the Constitution, with no decidability about the separation of powers, about Donald Trump's authority as commander-in-chief, as a duly elected president to protect the United States and to enforce immigration law. So KBJ did not have a very solid reason at all for dissenting against the 8-1 decision. And it just shows once again, when you decide to select nominees like Joe Biden did for reasons other than merit, you sometimes get disaster. But fortunately in this case, the good guys prevailed. Trump will be able to deport these Venezuelans who came in unlawfully or inappropriately under the temporary protected status. So this is a big win for America. Celebrate it while you can. We've got many more ahead of us. This has been Kyle Becker with Explain America.